On the evening of Sunday, September 3rd, 2023, in the quiet rolling hills of Kamahoru Village, within the Nyaguthii sub-location of Tetu sub-county, Nyeri County, a bright young life flickered out when 19-year-old students Peris Nyaguthii Mwangi disappeared under eerie circumstances that would soon plunge her community into grief and fear. Peris, a first-year student at Tetu Vocational College, was known locally as a devoted student and soft-spoken young woman whose life was largely centered on schoolwork, family, and the familiar rhythms of rural life. On that Sunday evening, after finishing her errands and heading towards home, the ordinary became chillingly tragic. As darkness settled over the village, Peris found herself unable to secure transport and instead walked home along familiar pathways. At some point during this walk, she made a phone call to a friend, a call that would later become one of the most haunting pieces of evidence in reconstructing her last moments. During that call, she expressed genuine fear, telling her friends that she felt someone was following her as she walked alone in the dark. A statement that was not casual but intensely alarming, reflecting a visceral sense of danger that she could not escape. This call, made sometimes on the night of September 3rd, was her final contact with the world, and after it ended, neither her phone nor her presence was heard from again that night. Her disappearance instantly ignited concern among her families and neighbors, but the full horror of the situation became evident only the following morning. At dawn on Monday, September 4th, 2023, villagers from Kamahoru began their routines, heading out towards farms and paths that crisscross the rich soil of Nyeri County. It was during these early hours that locals stumbled upon a terrible sight: the lifeless body of Peris, lying in a napier grass plantation approximately 800 meters from her home. The proximity of her body to her homestead was immediately troubling. It suggested that whatever befell her did not occur far from the place she trusted most. The body, positioned in the thick grass, not on a main road, not in a remote forest, but in a field close enough to be seen by neighbors, indicated that her attacker either acted with brutal confidence or did not plan to take her far. Villagers described that she seemed to have been ambushed on her way from a nearby shop, and there were immediate suggestions from some that she had been sexually assaulted before her death. Though authorities withheld official confirmation of that detail pending forensic results. Such accounts, while not formally verified by police in the early reporting, underscored the raw fear rippling through the community and the suspicion that a heinous act had taken place. Residents were shaken to the core, and calls for improved security, including better lighting and patrols in the area, echoed through the village as people grappled with the reality that someone could be murdered so close to home. The Nyeri County Police and detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations responded swiftly after being notified of the grim discovery. As officers arrived at the site, they cordoned off the area, recognizing it as a crime scene requiring careful forensic examination. Among the pieces of evidence recovered were Peris' mobile phone and handwritten notes, located close to where the body was found. These items were treated with utmost seriousness by investigators, though the content of the note were kept confidential by authorities to protect the integrity of the investigation. The phone, believed to contain logs of her last communication and potentially GPS or behavioral data, became a central exhibit for reconstructing her final hours. Intriguingly, the phone was reportedly first noticed by local school children, who brought it to the attention of adults and village elders, illustrating how community involvement often intersects with criminal investigation in rural Kenya. Additionally, one of Peris' shoes was found a short distance from the body, prompting investigators to question a passerby who had seen it and to consider whether there had been a struggle, sudden movement, or attempt to concealment. The careful collection of these exhibits, personal effects, written material, and technological data set the stage for a forensic and judicial process that would seek to answer how and why Peris died. In the days following the discovery, police intensified the investigation, interviewing neighbors, friends, and anyone who might have seen or spoken to Peris on the night of her disappearance. Among the community account was testimony from residents like Moses Njuki, who suggested that Peris might have been waylaid or ambushed on her way from a shop before being killed and her body dumped in the plantation. Though this type of community insights is not always admissible in court without verification, it provided a narrative that drove the urgency of the police probe. Every villager recollection was weighed against timelines, mobile phone records, and physical evidence from the scene, illustrating the painstaking work that underpins homicide investigations, especially those involving young victims whose last moments are so critical to understanding the crime. Given the suggestion of possible sexual violence, detectives also pursued forensic testing for signs of assault, though details of those results were either not publicly disclosed or remained part of a confidential investigative file. As the investigation sharpened, law enforcement identified a suspect connected to the crime, and by late November 2023, formal charges were filed in the High Court of Nyeri. The case was registered as Criminal Case E018 of 2023, while the accused facing a charge of murder contrary to Section 203 and 204 of Kenyan Penal Code. The charge particulars were straightforward in legal terms but devastating in human terms. They alleged that on the night of September 3rd and early hours of September 4th, 2023, at Kamahoru Village, Githathuthi sub-location within Nyeri County, and the accused unlawfully murdered Peris Nyaguthii Mwangi. This indictment was a crucial procedural step in anchoring the investigation to legal accountability and setting the stage for judicial scrutiny of the evidence collected. When the accused first appeared in court, the prosecution sought his continued remand and a bail application was filed by the defense in early 2024. However, the state opposed the application, arguing that releasing the suspect posed significant risk to the integrity of the trial and safety of witnesses. The investigating officer's affidavit in opposition to bail outlined several serious concerns. The accused was a close neighbor to the deceased, which the state argued made the environment hostile and potentially dangerous for witness testimony. There was a high risk of flight, with the affidavit noting that the suspect had previously attempted to escape from the custody during arrest, and there was a real possibility of interference with witnesses, given the tight-knit nature of the community. The High Court, upon reviewing these submissions, agreed with the prosecution that the risk factors were too significant to justify bail and ordered the accused to remain in custody pending trial. The bail application underscored both the gravity of the murder charge and the court recognition of the need to safeguard the process for intimidation or disruption. While the criminal proceeding unfolds in the courts, the community of Kamahoru and the broader Nyeri County was left to confront the void left by Peris' death. Her family arranged a burial within the county, a solemn ceremony that brought together relatives, friends, classmates from Tetu Vocational College, and neighbors in collective mourning. The burial was reportedly marked by deep sorrows and kinds of rituals that rural Kenyan community observed to honor the dead, blending grief with the traditions as the family sought closure. Beyond her immediate community, the murder of Peris became part of broader pattern of concern in Kenya about violence against women and girls. Though her case did not dominate national headlines for an extended period, it was referenced in discussions about femicide, rural safety, and the challenges of securing justice for victims of gender-based violence. Advocacy groups pointed to cases like Peris to highlight the need. In the months and years since the murder, the memory of Peris has persisted in both formal and informal places. In community conversations, in court corridors, and in the private reflection of those who knew her. Her case is frequently cited when neighbors discuss the importance of watching out for one another, and her story has been invoked in broader advocacy for rural safety infrastructure.